Gentlelady is recognized for 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I rise in opposition to the underlying bill. I was an early and strong supporter of the President's bipartisan commission on the debt. And while I do not agree with all of the Commission's recommendations, I recognize that their report to the President offered an important starting point for debate on an issue that affects the lives of every American as well as future generations. In the report, the Commission warns against disrupting our fragile economic recovery. Quote, "We need a comprehensive plan now to reduce the debt over the long term, but budget cuts should start gradually so they don't interfere with the ongoing economic recovery. Growth is essential to restoring fiscal strength and balance. We should cut red tape and unproductive government spending that hinders job creation and growth. But at the same time, we must invest in education, infrastructure, and high-value research and development to help our economy grow, keep us globally competitive, and make it easier for businesses to create jobs." End quote. The bill before us fails to heed this sound advice, making short-sighted decisions that will sabotage our short-term recovery and undermine our long-term competitiveness. The reckless decisions made in this bill will lead to lost jobs in my district throughout the nation. Some of these job losses are obvious. Deep cuts to cops and safer funding will ensure that we will lose thousands of police officers and firefighters protecting our communities nationwide. But other losses may be less obvious but just as painful. For instance, this legislation imposes deep cuts on the Food and Drug Administration. Every single drug, vaccine, biologic, and medical device must be approved by the FDA before it can ever be offered to patients. This means that not only do patients rely on the FDA, but also American pharmaceutical and medical device companies that need an efficient and effective FDA to ensure that they can continue to innovate, grow, and create jobs. We are lucky to have a medical device industry in this country that is on the cutting edge of technological advances in medicine. What we should be doing is modernizing the FDA to make it more efficient, transparent, predictable, and rigorous. And to do that, we need to ensure that the FDA has all the necessary resources to conduct proper and speedy review of life-saving devices that not only benefit patients, but are innovative businesses, so that many of them can get to work putting people to work. For these private sector firms, cutting FDA resources means slowing down their approval process, driving some of them overseas, and losing many jobs here in our country as well. Likewise, cuts to local funding included in this bill will harm communities I represent, particularly the deep cuts to the Community Development Block Grant Program. When I have asked leaders in the cities I represent how we can best help their recovery efforts, the answer has been unhesitating and unequivocal: CDBG funding. Last week, the city manager in my hometown of Lowell wrote, saying, quote, "This is probably the most valuable tool that the federal government offers cities to address economic development, infrastructure, and community needs." What is most discouraging about the attack on CDBG funding is that it does just what my colleagues say they support. It provides local flexibility, allowing stakeholders to decide what makes sense for their communities, while ensuring an extremely efficient use of funds. For example, last year in the city of Lowell, every $1 in CDBG funding generated more than $16 in additional funding. Over the years, Lowell has successfully used CDBG funds to develop a historic building into a much-needed senior center, turning a blight into a landmark, and prompting the entry of private businesses nearby. It has used funds to spur the development of a mixed-use development that is bringing in millions of dollars in private development and restoring architectural treasures key to the city's identity. And it has provided seed money to nonprofits like the United Teen Equality Center, recognized nationally for the revolutionary work they're doing every day to curb gang violence in the city of Lowell. All of these actions have improved the quality of life and created jobs for Lowell residents, and none might have been made possible without this modest federal investment. So I encourage I do not support the underlying bill, and I encourage its rejection. Thank you, and I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. For what purpose? The gentlelady from Minnesota seek recognition.
Mr. Chair, I rise to strike the last word.